This is a video of an 8mm film I shot maybe 40 years ago in the 70s. It's called America, and it seems to be about the United States of America and perhaps its decline. It starts off in the now defunct J.M. Fields department store with scenes of the shoppers and all the things they buy. This was the first such big department store in Haverhill, and it brought us a new way of buying things. Rows and rows of things. Household things, decorative things, owls and pussycats and little dwarfs, from praying hands to sitting Buddhas, to fill our house with decorations. The great paintings of the world, from rural landscapes to exciting cities, from the bucolic farm scene to the old master. All for your living room wall. How friends could admire your taste. Everything one could desire, filling those rows at J.M. Fields. J.M. Fields is defunct now, gone into bankruptcy, but it pointed the way to the future, to even bigger stores and more stuff. But that wasn't the entire film. It dispersed with the pictures of all the things we could buy. There were also pictures of the dump, with long pan shots of all the things that we had bought and then tossed out to make room for the new things we were buying. There were also pictures of automobiles, big automobiles, like the one I drove many times to California, or the one I drove many times to Florida. There were parking lots, cars stuck in the road, or cars with their backsides sticking out of garages which, like the pants we wore, were no longer big enough to hold those backsides in. There were accidents, and there was death. And then there were scenes of the automobile graveyard, long rows of empty hulks in the junkyard at the end of the road. There were also pictures of Jesus, lots of pictures of Jesus, a plastic Jesus that looked you in the eye, a Jesus that transmorphed to the Last Supper. There were curious religious symbols like the crucifix fish. It reads, "When you shake the cross, you will hear the dice being tossed for our Lord's blood-stained dress. Those who hear them will be blessed." It showed the blessing of the snowmobiles. There were praying hands and popes. There was a cross with stage blood hidden away inside. What in heaven could that be for? There were also shots of a group of boys climbing railroad trestles, playing freely as boys once did before computers hooked them in. But what was most curious to me about the film was the wheelchair basketball game. So much footage of a wheelchair basketball game. What was that about? I have just had that 40-year-old film transferred to video, and now, in the light of these many years, I have an opportunity to look at that silent film again and to guess what it was trying to say. Let's start with the stuff. J.M. Fields was only the tiny beginning of the national craze for stuff. It wasn't always like that, you know, ever more stuff. People got along with what they bought at the local market and the downtown stores. Television made us into a nation of consumers. 1,200 messages a day telling you that you're sick and need this drug or that. Messages selling you sugar-coated cereals that line the grocery aisles, or cleaning soaps, each one better than all the others. Where once we had a bar of plain soap and a box of oatmeal. Messages telling you that your breath is bad, that your hair is not stylish. Messages of violence and simplistic good guys and bad guys. Messages to make us smaller and dumber. 1,200 messages a day. But it's better, you say. Yes, it is better. But at what cost? The average American buys 53 times as many products as someone in China. If everyone on Earth lived as Americans do, we would need 3 planets. We throw out 200,000 tons of edible food every day. Each of us puts out 104,000 pounds of garbage in an average lifetime. Each of us on average consumes 159 gallons of water every day. Every day an estimated 9 square miles of farmland are lost to development. There are more malls than there are high schools, all for more stuff. We weren't always locked into such an orgy of acquisition. It really took off in the 70s, sometime after the hippies put on suits. That was about when we became a nation of consumers. Now, as a nation, we consume between 25 and 33% of the world's resources. And yet, we are less than 5% of the world's population. To do this, we have raped the forest of the world, cut down the mountains, diverted the rivers, contaminated the air and water. We produce 25% of the pollutants which threaten to end life on Earth as we know it. And yet, we are less than 5% of the population. And then there were the automobiles. 255 million registered automobiles. We drove them everywhere. We roared from coast to coast, east to west, north to south. The average American burns 500 gallons of gasoline a year. We moved out of the cities and into suburbia, office parks, industrial parks, theme parks, and national parks, all designed around the automobile. Car emissions kill 30,000 people a year. We drove to the beach. We drove to the mountains. There are 36,000 fatal accidents every year. Automobiles and snowmobiles, four-wheelers and motorcycles, motorboats and airplanes. And the television guided us every mile of the way. 1,200 messages a day, telling us where to go and what to do, driving us further away from our nature, until we became trapped into a way of life from which we can no longer escape. We thought we were the buyers, but we were the bought. Some people like statistics, and some like Jesus. I've given you some statistics, so now I'll give you some Jesus. I see Jesus as a prophet, a guy who saw through a lot of the crap, and he told people what he saw. People liked what they heard, so they passed his thoughts down by word of mouth for decades, till they were finally written down. And after that, they were transcribed, transposed, translated, added to, and deleted from by generations of underemployed, over-imaginative monks throughout the Middle Ages. So what we have left is a distillation of pure folk wisdom. So whatever your belief or non-belief, some of those thoughts are worth rethinking. For example, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall inherit the earth. Very simple. But you know, for the past 70 years, we have been almost constantly at war. From Korea to Afghanistan, from Vietnam to Iraq. Operation Urgent Fury, Operation Just Cause, Operation Desert Shield, Operation Restore Hope, Operation Uphold Democracy, Operation Enduring Freedom. And what was the result of all that war? Do we have more freedom? Do we have more security? Are we more unified? Are we more wealthy? Are we happier? War is a hideous manifestation of a primitive, savage urge that has destroyed the bodies of millions of men and women and left their minds caught up in a whirlwind of the three sad sisters of guilt, fear, and grief. It is a drug. It builds national spirit and patriotism. Politicians can always use that. It boosts the economy for a while. But in the end, it leaves a terrible hangover of ruined lives and bankrupt economies on the morning after. And then I was back to the wheelchair basketball game. It was only after I had watched the film perhaps a half-dozen times that I came to realize that those wheelchaired basketball players were Vietnam veterans who had lost their legs in that tragic war which achieved nothing other than to make a few people richer. And here were those brave young heroes valiantly playing wheelchair basketball, plunging on with life as though nothing had happened. And the boys were the march of time. Then they were the future. Now they are the past. Then I asked, would they die in senseless wars? Would they lose their limbs? Would they be playing wheelchair basketball? If it were to be, it has already happened. And then, as if in a flash, it all came to me. The shopping, the automobiles, the wars, the television, the rush to get more stuff. We followed the golden yellow brick road, and somewhere along the way, we lost our way. So what do we do now? How do we find our way back again? Stephen Colbert, the comedian, said, "We know what to do, we just don't want to do it." Or as Jesus put it, the spirit is willing, but the body is weak. You see, we have to change our minds, our way of thinking, to imagine a life without so much stuff. It's summed up easily. Live simply, less is more. Remember, there will be many generations after ours that will depend on those resources that we squander so ruthlessly. There's so much to be done. Develop renewable carbon-free energy, take the money out of politics, implement justice, spread the wealth. So much to be done. So much. I remember the famous line from the comic strip Pogo. We have met the enemy and he is us. So I'll be quick to admit my guilt. I've been as profligate and as guilty as anybody in the raping of Mother Earth. I can only plead ignorance. And now, though I hate to leave those problems behind for others to solve, I am old. And as those problems explode into chaos and confusion, I will be gone. Then who will solve them? Who will do it? Who? 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 I can only give you the answer the Lord gave to David. You.